Can edit this later. What is virtual camera? What the hell is studio mode? Okay, nothing what this
I know what is studio mode.
is. Okay, so hello everyone. We are here to talk with the BG about Emacs, and the reason for this is a few weeks ago I had a bit of an epiphany. I've been using Emacs since like early 2000s, maybe 2003, maybe 2004, but I realized I was using it like an animal, and I hadn't really grokked what this thing is. And when it finally struck me, I felt alternatively both extremely stupid and very, very like stunned by the conception of this thing called Emacs. And there are many jokes about Emacs, like Emacs is a great operating system. All it needs is a good text editor, and so on and so forth. But all that apart, I found that Emacs actually, once you understand the philosophy of it, it becomes very powerful. Like this is a power user tool, right, BG? And the kind of triggering moment for this epiphany was LLMs. And now that text is OG again, I mean, it has always been OG for us programmers, but text is OG again. And now, when you have the whole internet streaming into your text editor via LLMs, text has become the kind of clay with which we mold our world, right? And so, then to have this entire quote unquote operating system for text suddenly made sense, right? I could do things with text that I can't imagine doing in any other text editor. And I wanted to share this with वो कहते हैं ना नया काजी सबसे जोर से क्या पढ़ whatever azan पढ़ता है, right? The new convert is always the most. So I'm not a new convert. I feel like a born again Emacs user, and I want to spread the gospel of Emacs to everyone. And I couldn't think of anyone better than BG sir. BG is the OG Emacs user, Lisper, Clojure guy. He's founded companies multiple times. Right now, he's building a HR tech startup called Team Ohana. And he's before this, he was with HelpShift, and he's just a very interesting, very cool guy. Very a guy who just gets computation and programming. Right. I remember I'd gone to meet him once, and we had this long discussion about the your favorite one, the expression problem. And I love hanging out with BG because every time I talk with him, I learn something new. I'm sure today is not going to be any exception. So, without any further ado, BG, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, SBS. So I think Manas here was asking. So this guy called BG is going to talk about Emacs. So yeah, hi Manas to you too. My official name is Baishampayan Ghosh, but people call me BG. And yeah, I mean, as SBS said, I've been involved in the tech scene in India, tech and startup scene. Uh, Damn, it's been more than 20 years now. I feel so old. And yeah, and I was very fortunate to begin with because I didn't have to take a lot of detours through uh, different tools or ideas or technologies. I learned Emacs and Lisp very early in my college days, and that has completely shaped how I think about programming and also the craft of software engineering in itself. What is it that we do? Right? That's it's like that question that uh, goes on in your mind. It's like what is the matrix, right? It's like what is software engineering? What is software development? And yeah, I programmed in close to 20 languages, close to 10 languages at least professionally. Um, so yeah, Emacs has been my daily driver for more than 20 years. Like recently, I tweeted that my .emacs config is now eligible to vote. So it's been eligible to vote for a while. So so yeah, it's almost 20 years old, and yeah, here we are. This is we are ushering in, I would say, a paradigm shift in terms of software engineering and generally how work is done. And I think I'm very excited to see that Emacs still has a very big role to play in there.
Yeah,
So
and yeah, for a while I was very worried. I felt like I would have to go to Cursor to take advantage of these new tools, and I was getting very frustrated. I tried writing my own little Claude code type thing, but it was too much for me. My Emacs Lisp is not so good. And then I was in Cursor, very unhappy. And then someone said, "No, have you checked out this GPTel?" And uh, there's one more Claude Shell, ChatGPT Shell, and
yeah,
all of these ones,
bunch of them. Yeah,
and Elysium mode, and so on.
yeah,
And when I tried them, I was like, "Ho, ho, ho." And when you see the new packages that are coming out, it's like this 40-year-old software has got this new lease of life. It's just amazing to watch. But
absolutely.
before we talk about that, BG, what is it about Emacs that
Yeah,
got you hooked in the first place, and what have you learned over your journey? And then, of course, we'll see your setup and see it in
yeah.
action and all of that.
We will talk about that. But I will give a very quick, short disclaimer that I'm not. I'm too old now to sell Emacs to people.
Yep.
In the sense that I do not have the energy left in me to evangelize anymore. However, and this is something that I've done for half of my life at least. And however, there are ideas that need to be underscored and highlighted, and those ideas need to be understood. And Emacs is a great demonstration of those ideas. And we need to understand that if you have very strong ideas, powerful ideas, then whatever technology choices you're making today, they will never be outdated. Okay, and we'll probably keep revisiting this whole idea of Emacs over the course of this conversation. What got me hooked? So, like everybody else, I also studied in an engineering college in India. And when you are in college, there are, I guess, two kinds of people. Uh, the majority is only thinking about somehow graduating and getting a job, right? And that sort of made me very nervous
Hmm.
because I saw that the people around me, whether they were professors or students, nobody was really interested in learning anything. They just wanted to somehow, quote, crack the exams,
And
right?
the
We have this
placements.
word,
Yeah.
yeah, and placement, right? Cracking of exams is, I think, a predominantly Indian sort of activity that most teenagers and also post-teen people undertake. So anyway, that made me very nervous that I know that I do not know anything, and they are not also teaching stuff properly in college. So what will happen to me? And that was a, I would say, a very long sort of episode of introspection. And then I realized that I need to take everything in my own hands
Hmm.
and craft my own syllabus or whatever and learn things myself.
Hmm.
So that realization I had in 2002 when I was in college. And at that time, I said, okay, I'm going to read books. I'm going to read history. I'm going to read, what all the greats from our industry are talking about. And let's see what kind of technology or ideas are useful or interesting. So, and that's the moment when I started uh, hearing and reading about two words over and over again. One was Lisp,
Yeah.
and another was Emacs.
And this
Okay.
close on the heels of Lisp will come Emacs for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Because I read about Lisp in my academic books as well. There was one line about Lisp.
Hmm.
There was nothing else in, let's say, in discrete mathematics or some other subjects. And so I dug deep and I started learning other programming languages as well. That was the time when I learned Ruby as well as Python, PHP, etc. And again and again, I heard this word Lisp that, oh, this idea, garbage collection, it originated in Lisp.
Hmm.
If then else originated in Lisp.
Hmm.
Virtual machines originated in Lisp. Arbitrary precision mathematics originated in Lisp. First class functions,
Uh,
Lisp. Again,
yeah.
and I said, what is this Lisp?
Mm,
Everybody's talking about it, but where do I get to learn it?
mm, mm.
Right? So I started reading. It was very obscure. I could not make a head or tail of it. That you have these parentheses. You're writing something. Uh, can I build applications
Yeah.
with this kind of programming language? And with Lisp came Emacs.
Yeah.
That if you want to learn Lisp or program in Lisp, the only uh, development environment worth its salt is Emacs,
And parrot it.
right? And so yeah, that's how the journey started. Initially, obviously didn't understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a lot of time of consistent sort of struggle, I would say, to really grok it. And then once I grokked it, I saw, I felt like Neo, once
Yeah. Exactly.
Neo, once Neo realized what was the matrix, he
Mm.
could see the source code of the matrix
Yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I started observing, that ideas from Lisp, ideas from Emacs, they're everywhere,
Mm.
and that was pretty interesting. So I'm very fortunate to get a job out of college where I could program in Common Lisp and
Really?
get
What
paid
was
for
that?
that. And that was a transformative experience again. And that's
Where?
where I truly learned how to build applications and put them in production in Common Lisp and the Lisp like languages. And then it's been a long journey. Today, Clojure is my de facto choice for building business applications, even though I program in many languages concurrently. And
Great.
obviously, everything is in Emacs.
Can you hear me, by the way? You can.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that you started programming your career with Common Lisp. Where was this?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
at Clear Trip.
ClearTrip. That's
So,
right. Yeah, ClearTrip.
yeah,
Yeah.
Clear
Interesting.
Trip back in the day was
Yeah.
built in Common Lisp
Yes.
because the early engineering leaders of Clear Trip were big, passionate, I would say, fans of Emacs as well as Lisp.
Yes.
And they decided, and I joined them, learned a lot from the whole team.
That's very fortunate. One of the things
Yeah.
that I notice about current discourse around is that there's not much discussion of power user tools. And the old school people will remember early Linux, right? And how it was built with the mailing lists and so on. And these were all essentially power users building a power user tool for themselves. And
Yeah.
there's an ethos that exists over there, right? And when you use tools from that vintage, you're using tools from a place where it was bandwidth was low, memory was low, processing power was low, and people were very, very bright. Like only the very few people
Yeah.
were programming computers, right? In universities,
Yeah.
scientists, and
Yeah.
so on. And so they built these tools which were very efficient, very expressive, very this thing, and which laid bare the internal workings of the system to them so that they could do whatever it was that they wanted. And this, I feel, is one of the most interesting thing about Emacs is that it comes from that era where only power users were building power tools for themselves.
Yeah. And that world was also a very different world back then. There were basic expectations from computers which we can't even imagine today. For example, I heard this story from a Lisp legend. He told me that when they were programming on Lisp machines, so Lisp machines, a lot of people don't know about it probably. Lisp machines back in the day, this is the pre-PC era. We are talking about 50s and 60s, and perhaps also into the 70s and early 80s. Lisp machines were very large, very powerful computers, which would basically boot into a Lisp runtime. Okay. And so the operating system, the editor, the programming language, the standard library, everything was completely integrated. And I heard this story that one day they were writing some code for some application, and obviously in a variant of Emacs, and there was a kernel panic. Okay. So there was a panic from the kernel which got bubbled up into their Emacs environment. And then they did this meta dot, which I call meta dot, which is basically going into the definition of a function or a stack trace.
Yeah.
And they just pressed meta dot, went inside, deep inside the kernel code.
Operating
It
system
was
code.
some,
Yes.
yeah, for the OS. It was some errant device driver which caused the kernel panic.
Uh,
And they went deep into the OS driver code, fixed the code, recompiled it, and pressed meta comma to
come
pop the
back up
stack, come back to their editor, and continue with the
as if
work.
nothing has happened. Yeah.
Okay. And this is something, even though abstractions, if you think about it, have given us a lot of power of expression, but there are a bunch of fundamental things which are completely abstracted away from us. And we do not
Not
have any
just
visibility
not
into
just
that.
abstracted away. We are not
Yeah.
allowed in there anymore. It's not
Yeah, we are
just
not. Let's say
layers
it's
of abstraction.
gatekeeping.
Yes.
There is some sort of gatekeeping, right?
Yeah.
Because these runtimes are also different.
Yeah.
We think about when we say that, oh, Java runs inside a virtual machine, Python runs inside its own runtime interpreter, same for Lisp. But we need to understand even your C programs have a runtime, right? In most cases, it is glibc, but it can be some other C standard library as well, right? So because we have these different runtimes which do not really talk to each other, uh, those options are completely closed for us. There are videos on YouTube which shows the genera common Lisp machine. You can see old videos where you will see that everything was integrated: the browser, the editor, the debugger, uh, messaging, everything together. So Emacs comes from that heritage where ultimately it is one interface, one uniform interface to interact with your computer.
Mm.
And the whole idea that Emacs is an operating system and a poor text editor, there is a kernel of truth to that, because obviously it is inspired by the Lisp machine concept,
Yes.
where once you boot up the editor, you are basically calling functions
Yeah.
to manipulate. Everything is a function, right?
Yes.
And these functions can all be redefined in runtime.
Yes.
You can create new functions in runtime. You can change the entire behavior of your editor while it is running. You don't have to restart it. And that's a very powerful idea. And people who have not programmed in a Lisp like language, which has a very strong REPL culture, probably don't even see the value or the power of having that kind of uh, capabilities. I'll give you an example. So at ClearTrip, we talk about deployments, blue green deployments, those kind of things
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But what were we doing back in the day?
Mm.
We had a web interface,
Mm.
and you take your new code.
Uh,
Let's say it's a small function that you want to change, not for big features or big deployments, small bug fix or small tweaking here and there. We had a simple web interface. You take your code from your editor, paste it there, press a button, and all the code would get dynamically applied to the whole cluster, and the cluster would start behaving in a new way immediately. There was no restart or
yeah. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, of
True.
course
You
there
see,
are there are dangers in that kind of
naturally.
approach as well, obviously.
No,
But
it's a what do you call power
a
saw
civilized
chain?
tool,
It's no, it's a chainsaw. If you don't know how to use
yeah,
it, it'll chop your arm off. Very simple.
yeah. So as they say, right, it's a powerful tool for a civilized
Age,
age.
yes.
So
Indeed,
yeah,
indeed.
it gives you tremendous amount of power. And one joke that I crack is that Clojure is not as powerful as Common Lisp.
Mm-hmm.
Common Lisp is probably the most powerful language in existence today,
Mm-hmm.
because you can do crazy stuff there. So I feel like, a Sith Lord, Darth Vader, it gives you a feeling of tremendous amount of power in that kind of environment. So yeah, I mean,
I heard someone refer to Emacs as a portable computing environment.
yeah,
It's like I can boot up Emacs on Windows, get my config files loaded, and it's like I never left
yeah,
whenever I was on my Mac or a Linux box or whatever, because
yeah.
it
But
has. It
More
interfaces with
simply,
the host operating system and abstracts all of that out for you and just gives it to you in an Emacsy way.
and more simply put, I think it is the only true integrated development environment. It's the
Yes.
true IDE. It's the
Yes.
one IDE. There is other things are not. They are development environments for sure,
Hmm.
but they are not as integrated as we would like them to be. Okay, so yeah, that's why Emacs. And if you look at all the new editors that have cropped up recently, starting from Sublime Text
Yeah.
to Atom to today VS Code and the new ones like Z or Cursor,
Yeah.
uh, they have taken some of the best ideas from Emacs and even NeoVim, that's also included. Taken the best ideas from Emacs and adopted those ideas, and I'm really happy and encouraged by that. That people are, it's taken 50 years, but still they have realized that there is a lot of power in there.
Yeah.
For example, LSP,
Hmm.
right? The shocking thing is that I take notes about project ideas that I would like to do, but never get
Find
to
time for
doing
it.
those
Yes.
things. I was looking at one of my ideas that I written down 10 years ago. I had written down something exactly like LSP
Hmm.
to build for other languages and editors,
Hmm.
because Emacs always had that.
Yes.
Emacs and the whole idea that there will be a server process interacting with your language runtime
Yeah.
over a standardized interface, which your editor is going to use to provide you with development tools and hints and other things like introspection or
Auto
code
complete. Yeah.
completion. We have always had that.
Yes.
That is how I have always programmed in Lisp, because in Lisp you start the Lisp runtime first, and then you connect to it from Emacs, and then
Yes.
you start programming. Right? LSP is exactly that, and it's a great thing because now there are so many editors. They can all support new languages without worrying about re-implementing these ideas from scratch. So that's great.
Wonderful. I think time to Alt X,
Yeah.
Meta X forever.
Sure, sure, sure. So, but just one thing, if I have your permission,
Uh huh.
let's ask the audience if they have any questions.
Yep. Put them in the
On the chat,
chat.
perhaps.
Yeah. If you have
Yeah,
any questions, put
folks.
them in the chat.
If you have any questions, you can ask me. And also, I have not prepared any. It's not a talk. I have not prepared anything. I'm not here to show you guys all the features that Emacs has, because even after 20 years, I would still consider myself a beginner Emacs user. But yeah, I'll be very happy to show you some cool things that I use all the time, or how I use Emacs as a thinking tool. Okay,
Super.
so
Yes.
somebody is
And
typing.
also, BG, from time to time, I will interject and simplify
Yeah,
as you go
please,
along
please,
or
please.
explain things to a lay
Anytime, as I
audience.
said, right? As I said, this is not a talk. So we have a question from Saket.
Uh,
What were the books that you read early on that inspired you to use Emacs? Okay, I think there is a four-letter book name that everybody probably has heard of but have not
Everyone has
read.
tried to read it.
Uh, yeah, or have thought about reading it. That was one of the first books that I read for computing. That book is called Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, SICP. Uh, it really changed my mind, and I think it changed my mind in a way that I can't recover from anymore. Uh, so it really taught me what programming is all about, and also how a Lisp-like language can allow you to express these ideas at a very high level, and it gives you powers that are very difficult to understand or imagine if you are not exposed to that kind of programming languages. So SICP was the pivotal book, but then I used to spend, just like Neo, right? Spend I used to spend a lot of time on the internet trying to find out what are some of the important books in the history of computing. SICP came out as one of the first books, and then there were a bunch of follow-up books like how to design programs, concepts, techniques, and models of computer programming. These are all legendary books, and then once you read these three, you get a lot of other references, and you just go deep down the rabbit hole of computer science. So there is this question: do you use Emacs for day-to-day programming? I commonly see people switching to other editors for debug. No, that's not true. I use Emacs because, honestly speaking, I've tried to replicate the same kind of experience in other editors, not for myself, so that I could help my colleagues or co-workers, and have completely failed at that. There are a lot of editors which will give you a great out-of-the-box experience, but it basically stops right there. Emacs is that's not the case with Emacs, and so if you also go on YouTube, you will see there are a lot of content creators today who are creating a lot of amazing videos about their Emacs workflows, and those guys are far more advanced. Many of them are far more advanced than I am. So the quick answer is that that is not true. Auto completion and other debugging, those are all solved problems in Emacs. It may happen that if you are using an obscure programming language or something very new, obviously Emacs may not have support for that out of the box. But languages that are popular or common have first class support in Emacs.
And even the structure of architecture of how this is put together. For example, for the audience, Emacs has this thing called VC, right, which is a version control
Yeah.
interface,
Mm.
and it can interface with any version control system at the back. It
Exactly.
has these kind of concepts. It has taken the concepts from all the various version control systems and put them behind kind of a
Abstractions.
unifying terms, like next
Yeah.
action, for example, right?
Yeah.
You know that
Exactly.
first you want to add the files, then you want to commit them, then you want to push them. So the next action, whether it is Git or VCS, CVS or Mercurial or anything, doesn't care. You have a little
Yeah.
adapter that works with the
Even
particular
even
backend.
jujutsu. If anybody here is learning jujutsu,
Uh,
jujutsu also is supported in Emacs. Do you know about jujutsu SBS?
it's a version control system, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the coolest kid on the block right now.
Okay.
JJ.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's see your Emacs, and
Yeah.
I want to, when you boot it up, I want to actually talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the UX of
Yeah.
Emacs.
So I'll tell you this, folks. There
BG,
are some thoughts.
wait a
Be,
second. Wait a second. Wait.
there are
Okay.
some thoughts behind my configuration of Emacs. And I'm going to underscore those ideas first so that everybody understands what is the logic behind my sort of Emacs interface. I do not like distractions. Uh, I, for me, focus is a very important thing because often these days I'm not a individual contributor programmer anymore. But I do have to write a lot of different kinds of programs or read code written by other people, and also write a lot of documents or think about architecture, those kind of things. So, and I'm also old now. So, focus is super important to me. So, you see that my user interface is extremely Spartan. This is how it starts. Okay. It basically has nothing when I start it up, absolutely nothing. And that can be a little bit confusing or worrisome to some other people, but this is not how Emacs has to look like. There are a lot of Emacs users who have very beautiful dashboards where when you start Emacs, it shows you a lot of options. It shows you your most recently opened files or other actions, and you can click on buttons to navigate. But this is how my Emacs starts. So I had some thoughts that I had written down just to guide this conversation. By the way, is this text readable to everybody?
Uh,
I guess so,
it
right?
is to
Yeah.
me, yeah.
Yes. 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 Yeah. So see, there are always three questions, right? Why, what, how? I'm as I've grown older, I've become more and more interested in the why than the what and the how. Okay. So Emacs is obviously the what, and I'm going to show you some things which will answer the how question. But we need to attack the why question first, right? What do we really need? What do we really need? By the way, this is not even a presentation. If I go into presenter mode, you will see that it looks like a slide deck now, right? But I don't need to do that. I can just see. I can go back to see. I completely forgot because I don't
End.
use it
No, no.
that
All
much.
present mode. All present.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, no. I'm already at present mode.
It'll toggle it,
Uh,
right?
oh, okay. Is that toggling?
Yeah,
Okay.
it will toggle.
No, no, it doesn't
No, you
toggle.
said all present. Go all present mode.
Okay, okay, okay.
No?
No,
Okay.
see, disabled.
Okay, we stay in we stay in
There
present.
is one. I completely forgot, folks. See, I told you
Or
that.
just org mode. Maybe just switch to org mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it has narrowed actually. So I need to basically widen. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
And
Okay. I widen.
can we do that again? Like
Do what?
press Alt X and
Yeah.
org narrow, right? And so this is the thing about the Emacs
Yeah.
user experience that just gets me. It is so powerful, and yet everything is hidden behind this Alt X, Meta X,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
if you use something often enough, it'll just keep showing you the keyboard shortcut so that eventually you remember it. Okay, Control X and W, and then it
Right.
becomes the shortcuts that you need in working memory are there in your muscles, and the other ones are just behind this Alt
Yeah.
X. It is
See, the thing is
like
this, I don't have to remember a lot of things. I can discover. So discovery is always better than remembering because then you can keep your mind free for other more important information. So somebody was joking here that colon W Q and try again. Obviously, that's what you do in an editor, but you don't restart your operating system every time, right? For example, how do we know that Emacs is a operating system? Well, it has a uptime command. So you can see my uptime. Can you guys see my uptime? It
yep,
is 15 days, 7 hours, 59 minutes, 33 seconds. Okay. So I will also uh, switch on keycast so that if I press any cursor buttons, you can see on the right bottom
okay,
side which buttons, which keystrokes I am typing and which function it is invoking. So you can see that I'm typing Control N and that invokes the next line function. That is kind of instructive. Okay. So yeah, why Emacs, right? What are some of the key activities that a professional like us would undertake, right? So navigation, I need to navigate within my file in the project, in the whole directory or my whole computer. It doesn't matter. And also, if you think about navigation, that can be navigating to different functions or different files or different projects. It doesn't matter. The idea is the same. Like searching, documentation writing, programming assistant, obviously auto completion, LSP, LLM. I'm going to show you guys some of these things. And but more importantly, get out of my way when I do not need you. Right? Like for example, if I have let's say a Python project open here, everybody who uses VS Code always has that file navigator open on the side.
yep.
That annoys me very much because I do not need that navigator all the time. Can I just get it when I need it and navigate to my files or whatever? Like I open the README or whatever, right? and when I don't need it, just get rid of it, right? And all of these things are constantly available to me at my fingertips. So okay, so yeah, I'm writing this trivial sort of program in Python. What I really wanted to do here was write a very small CLI tool that I can pass it any argument and it gets the answer from the LLM. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys what this is. So I go to a terminal. Let's say I full screen it, right? Yeah. So let's see what answer we get for this. Okay. So highly customizable. So we'll see how we can do the customization and what it really means for day-to-day experience. So yeah, highly customizable, powerful text editing capabilities, package manager, cross-platform. Obviously, Emacs also works on Android now. So if you have a Bluetooth keyboard, you can fully use Emacs on your mobile phone as well. Supports almost all programming languages. It's a full-fledged IDE, long-lasting ecosystem, active since 1976, and I'm very happy that I'm very happy that the LLM got this answer. But that's the kicker, right?
Yep. Yep.
I do not think any of you guys were born before 1976.
I just barely made
So
it myself.
yeah, yeah, right. So and there is a lot of value in it, folks. It just means that how difficult will it be to write a piece of software that remains relevant 50 plus years down the line? When we consider the amount of churn and quote innovation that is happening in our industry,
Yep.
how do we even do that, right? How do we even do that? So anyway, so we are back here. So I mean, basic things are all there, man. I don't want to show these things. It's all simple stuff, you know. What do you even write? Just some function. I mean, it's all trivial matters, and this is where you know I kind of wonder what you guys want to see. So see, even if so, I pressed a thing. I pressed a key that I should not have pressed here, and it is totally fine. It shows you that this is the exactly the stack trace that I talked about. That my guru, one of my gurus, saw coming from the kernel. And if I really want, I can go inside. I can check what is really going on in the code. Okay, so this is the function from where the stack trace came. Okay, now I can go deeper also. If I want to see this function, what is this function doing? Go inside this function. Go inside this function, and I'm, let's say, at the very end of the code where I can see the bug and I can fix something here, right? Fix, and I have just compiled the code, and now I can press another keystroke, and I'm back, and I'm back at the very top. So I can close all of this, and I'm back wherever I was, right? So yeah, and we have all the basic things on the side. You can see LSP, etc. All of that is enabled. The most powerful thing, I think, which has had a huge influence on my programming approach or workflow is this Git integration. That's extremely powerful stuff. So I see I'm writing my code here, right? And of course, on the left side, on the margin, you will see that it is already showing me that I've added 2 3 lines. Okay, so this is called in Emacs, it is called Git gutter. This feature is available in almost all editors today, but I've had this for 20 years, for a very long time. So anyway, I just added some code. I want to commit it right now, and I know it is incomplete, but let me commit it, and I'm gonna revisit it later. Okay, so I can just go to Magit here. Magit obviously shows me where I am right now. It tells me that I'm in this project. I have modified one file. Let me also modify the README file of this project. Okay, just write something. Okay, so again, I'm back in my Git interface. You can see that I modified two files. I've added this function to ask.py, and then I added something to readme. Let's say I do not want this change. I can immediately cut it out. I can delete this. Okay, but I'm going to show it to you how to do that. Let's say I don't want to keep this change. So I just press K. It asks me, do you want to discard? I say, why? Yes. It's gone. I've just dropped that whole change. It has been completely reverted to the
Yeah.
uh,
And if there are
from,
multiple changes in a file, you can
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I'm going to show it to you right now. This is what you also found interesting, right? Last time we were talking about this, you know, another, let's say, takes two arguments, something trivial. And yeah, let's go back here. Now I can see that we have added two things, right? So this is one hunk. Uh, I don't know how many people are aware of this concept of a hunk in Git. Uh, as it happens, unfortunately, as a lot of young developers don't even know what a hunk is.
Mhm.
What really recently happened in my company is one of our engineering managers, he was working with the junior developer, and he told him, okay, stage this hunk. And he said, hunk? Did you mean Hulk? What is hunk? Never heard of it.
Yeah.
So hunks are basically continuous fragments of code that can be that the Git recognizes as blocks that you can add or stage or even split hunk into multiple pieces. So since both of these two functions were added at the bottom of the file, so it is one hunk. But let's go back to the top and write something here. Okay, so now when I go back here, you see my interface has been updated automatically. Now it is showing me that there are two hunks. Okay, so I can stage this one hunk by just pressing S right here. Even though I have modified one file with multiple changes, I can commit them in separate commits. Okay, so this has already staged it. And here, let's say I do not want to stage this quarks function. I want to only stage this foobar function. I can select this part and just press S, and completely unblocked here. You can see that it has staged exactly what I needed and nothing more, nothing less. Okay. And I was reading somewhere that somebody said using rebase in Git will cause you some sort of mental health issues because rebase is difficult. So why don't we do that right now, right? So let's commit this change. Okay. So I've already staged it. To commit, press C. It is asking me, what do you want to do? Do you
Again,
want to
see the
just commit?
interface. All
Yeah,
the possible options available to you are right there. I've learned more about Git by using Magit than any
yeah,
other.
exactly. Completely agree. Okay. So I'll say that I'll just commit it. Press C. And now you see the power, right, of context. Folks, this is something that we often overlook or do not appreciate. When you are committing your code, you need to still see what is it that you have changed. Because if you can't see it, how will you write a good commit message? So this is where I can type the commit message. Okay, so let's just say new f function or toolbar. That's not being useful. But I want to still verify. Okay. So it's right here. It's right here. I can see. Okay. Oh, okay. I forgot about this note thing. Okay. Let me mention that as well. Okay. Control C, and it has been done, right? And it is also tracking my remote origin. So it knows that this is unmerged right now. I have not merged it, but it's just been committed. So, and I can also look at the log. I can see that this project has basically three commits. I can see, I want to see, okay, what really did I do in this second commit? Okay, let's look at it. Press enter, you know, full screen. Look at the diff. I can see that, okay, there is only one hunk. I can see the diff stat. I changed one file, added 17 lines. Okay, fine. So this is the diff. Fine. Okay, and I'm back again. Right? I'm back again. And okay, this is the new commit that I just committed right now. Obviously, we know what it is right now.
And the thing is,
Okay.
when all of this is available at your literally fingertips,
Yeah.
you don't need to move to the mouse for any of these
No,
functions. The kind of
no
flow
mice.
state,
No mice were hurt in this
the
process.
kind of
Right?
flow state that you can get into is ludicrous.
Exactly.
Shobit had a question. How
Exactly.
will LLM generate the commit message in the?
Yeah, all of that is a solved problem, folks. Shobit, I do not have it integrated, but I'm going to show you how the LLM interface works. Okay, it's basically trivial stuff. So I want to rebase because I actually want to drop this commit. I don't want this commit. Okay, or actually, let's make another commit and look at that. Okay, so we also have this thing staged. I don't want this empty line, but I'll stage this part. Okay, so I can see that this has been staged. Commit that. Okay, committed. And this empty line, I don't care, so I'm gonna kill it, discard it. Okay. So now I have two commits. They are both unmerged. Okay. So this is the important aspect here. So most of us here are professional programmers. And one thing that I see often see is that people, when they're writing code, obviously you should be making a lot of commits, small commits perhaps, or maybe work in progress commits before you leave your work for the day. You can commit that. But that doesn't mean this is how you have to push the change to the upstream server. You can commit as you like depending on your workflow. But when you are ready to publish your code pull request or merge your code, it is always recommended that you rebase and clean up your commit history. Okay, so we are here. Let's rebase. Sorry, right? So it is asking what kind of rebase do you want to do right now? Okay, so I will do an interactive rebase, which is the most common use case. But there are other rebases that you can do also. Let's say there are changes in main that you have not pulled yet. You can just press P and it will do that same thing. It will pull a main and put your commits on top of that. So I'll do an interactive rebase. So that's the thing, right? Okay, so see what happened here. It is only showing me one commit because I did not pick the correct tip for my interactive rebase. So what I will do is I'll just option is right here. The power of Emacs, folks, is that it's self-documenting. It is always trying to tell you what to do, right? So you can see here it's saying that if you press Ctrl C, Ctrl K, it will tell Git that you have changed your mind. So you can abort. So I'll abort it. So I want to do my rebase from here. My cursor was here initially, but now I'll put it here and I'll do the rebase. I now it is showing me both the commits that I've made. Okay. So what I really want to do is basically I want to melt both of these commits into one commit, and I also want to change the commit message. Very straightforward stuff, but what is important to note here is how quickly I can do that without thinking too much. All the advice is given here. If you read the docs, it clearly says here that if you press S on any of these commits, it is going to squash it into the previous. And then we also have R, which says use the commit but edit the commit message. So we are going to use both of these things together. Okay. So here I am. I just press S. So it is now going to squash into the previous commit. And here I'm going to press R, which will say it is going to reword it. And then Control C, Control C. And now you can see that what I have is the commit message editing interface. And it also shows me all the changes that are going to be rebased in this commit. Okay. So I'm just, since I have combined two commits, I'll just say, okay, same, Control C, Control C. And yeah, there is nothing to do here. So I'll just remove this. Okay. So now I have one commit, folks, where the commit message is exactly like how I wanted it. And it also combines the changes across both the commits. Okay. And I press Q and I'm back again in programming mode.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, honestly speaking, once you understand all of this is super straightforward and trivial stuff. These things should not be difficult at all. Okay. So, and I don't want these changes. Now I changed my mind. This was a waste of time. Let's say, you know, I'm here again, R, I, and then just drop, right? Drop the commit. K, Control C, nothing to do. Okay. It didn't drop it. Okay. So I know what happened. I need to go to the previous commit and then I can drop it from there. But
BG,
any,
though getting a
yeah,
little maggot
yeah,
heavy, there's also
yeah,
this other statement that I heard about Emacs, which is that programming is about manipulating a tree and
yeah,
not typing text.
characters. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly. So see, there is a functionality or I think a facility that has always been available in Lisp languages or Lisp like language, that was structural editing. And it was quite difficult to do in non-Lispy languages because it was difficult to tap into the abstract syntax tree of that language. So what is a structural editing kind of idea? Structural editing basically means that you are editing your code in terms of its semantics and not characters. You are not selecting characters. You are saying that select this function or select this block of code or select this expression and then manipulate it in some way, right? Like wrap this expression in another expression or lift it up, combine it, join it, those kind of things. So of late there has been some very nice innovation in this space and it's called tree sitter. A tree sitter, basically it's kind of like LSP but for the abstract syntax tree. It exposes the AST of your programming language in a standardized format, and then once you have that AST, think about the AST as a database table. Now you can query that AST and manipulate that AST without worrying about characters. And different languages have different levels of support. The most basic use case for tree setter is syntax highlighting. The most basic use case because Emacs traditionally has used regular expressions for syntax highlighting. Uh, that has worked pretty well all this while, but there are obviously a lot of limitations. You can't express all kinds of language features as regular expressions. And whenever, even if you can do that, it can get a little bit slow. And three-seater, on the other hand, is very fast. So anyway, so I'm going to show you a small thing that I see used very often, and it's called combo bullet. So what combo bullet does, it basically allows me to do structural editing uh, across any programming language in a very uniform sort of manner. Okay. So one thing that I use most commonly is drag node up and down. And I think that's a super powerful feature, folks. I don't know if it's obvious to you how useful that is. It is basically, it allows you to reposition a function by dragging the whole function across the file wherever you want to put it. Normally, you will have to do it by cutting that function and then taking your cursor to the right place and pasting it. That works, but it's not, I would say, the user interface or the user experience is probably not optimum here. So, so yeah, so let's say this function that I have, right? You can see this function. I want to move it above the foobar function, okay? Or I want to move both of these functions on top of that main clause. The obvious thing is this, right? I cut it and paste it. But what if I could just move it?
Meta shift
See?
P.
Yeah. So I'm doing it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but here, look at this.
Yeah.
Okay. I have moved that function by pressing a button. Imagine this is just a single line function. It's probably trivial. Don't have to worry about it. But what if that function is very long and the file itself is pretty long? In those cases, this becomes super useful. And then there are a lot of navigation functions. For example, sibling. So if you look at this help guide, right? So up into a list, I can go inside a any kind of list like thing, or I can look at the siblings, basically any kind of code that is at the same level of this expression. I can do that. For example, if I want to move this else if above the previous else if, how would I do that? Let's try it. So let's first find out what it could be, right? And let's see. So mm, yeah, so let's try this one. It says control meta p backward sibling. Let us see what happens.
It moved the
Okay.
point to,
Yeah, it moved the point. Okay, it didn't actually change the thing, but I think meta shift p will should work here.
yeah.
Meta shift n. Yeah, did it move it? Something happened because my LSP is complaining. Oh, okay, okay. I see what happened. It moved this return due to some reason. Let's look at the diff for a second to understand what really happened. Yeah, see? So this is what happened. It moved this last return to the top of it. Obviously, I didn't use the right keystroke for this because I don't use this function that often, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And this is a new hunk. I don't need this change. I can just discard it, go back.
So I
And
used to hate working with HTML before
yeah,
I figured out what web mode does. And in web
right.
mode, like for example, Rails, partials, and all, you can hit a uh, call a function basically, and it'll extract that part into a partial
Yeah,
and put in the text to do this. And web mode has this thing like select element, select attribute, select this. And when you select, like you can be anywhere in the element, and you can say
yeah,
select element and then expand selection till it tuck 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 selects the div that you want and then do whatever that you want.
exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah. Uh, Excellent.
We can also show iMenu.
Yeah, I don't use iMenu that much, but
Okay.
yeah, it is here. For example, I don't know, it's not visible, I think,
Alt G
because
I.
getting outside the shared window. But
Mhm.
see, one thing that people don't, a lot of people even today think that Emacs is a terminal application.
Mm.
But Emacs is not a terminal application. It is one of the first, probably, GUI applications, even before GUI as we know today existed. There are Emacs has its own way of providing interfaces for all kinds of stuff. Let's look at customized variable, right? So you see, Emacs actually allows you to customize things by just using a graphical user interface as well. I can click on something, I can toggle, I can apply and save, press buttons. All these things are totally available all the time, and they work in terminal as well as in the GUI thing. So the manual, I can just click and go,
The
right?
manual.
Yeah,
The
the most
Emacs
important,
manual. How
right?
do you learn Emacs? Control
Yeah,
H. What is it? Control H M. And
Control
you
H
can.
M.
Yeah.
Control H itself takes you to all kinds of help stuff, right? So as you see, there are a bunch of key codes that I can type, but it is telling me what else I can type after pressing Control H. So I can say Control H I'm in info mode, and I can open any info file on manual page or anything, learn about Emacs, learn about Emacs Lisp, how every mode works. Everything is available inside Emacs. Don't have to go outside.
And
So
we haven't even gotten to the brand new ones like Consult and Embark
yeah,
and whatnot. Like so
yeah,
many
yeah,
little affordances to do things.
exactly.
Let me just describe to the audience what you can do.
Yeah,
You can do a grep, and then you can collect the results of that grep into another buffer,
yeah,
and then you can go down that list. It'll open the file which is in that over here. You can do whatever you want with it, and this thing. You can also write a little piece of Emacs code and say apply it to all the buffers that I've collected as a result of the grep. And you're just programming. The whole thing is
exactly.
you're just programming.
Yeah, Shobit has this question: what is org mode? So this is org mode, Shobit. This is basically a very powerful text-based note-taking, knowledge management mode in Emacs, and you can do
Obsidian
a lot
before
of crazy.
Obsidian.
Sorry, SBS, your audio. Sorry, you were saying something.
Obsidian before Obsidian.
Exactly. Obsidian, Rome research, Notion, whatever. I'm not a very hardcore org mode user because I don't uh, write down all the notes all the time. But I use org mode for one-off files, architecture notes all the time. So this is an example of org mode, Shobit. This is a simple text file that you can open in any editor. But as you can see, Emacs actually does a lot of formatting on top of it. And this includes having inline code, inline images. You can do whatever you want.
Can you, BG, for a demonstration? I think people are also curious to see the LLM aspect of it. Can you
Exactly. So
ask
that's what we will do now.
GPTEL to return some code in a org
Yeah.
source
So let's
block?
just create a totally empty file.
Uh,
Okay. We'll start with a total empty slate. So there was this another question about AI interaction in Emacs. LLMs is just another mode. So you just saw that I've opened this file called llm.org. It's a plain text file. What I'm gonna do is turn on GPTEL mode on this file. Okay. Now I'm gonna have a chat with an LLM. Right now, this is configured to use DeepSeek chat, but let's change it to Gemini. Okay. So I just changed it to Gemini 2.5 Pro. Okay. And let's say I'm creating a, okay, spelling mistake. So also it has a spell checker, right? Done. So, okay. So let's say I want to create a distributed caching system, and so I'm starting with a node. I don't know what to really write here. So let's gonna write. Let's ask the LLM to do that for us. Okay. Of course, as you guys know, the prompting is super important. I'm typing all kinds of arbitrary stuff here, so the response from the LLM may not be that useful. But I've typed just this much. Now let's see what Gemini has to say about the rest of the stuff. Okay. Okay, it's querying something. Gemini is probably still thinking the
Ge-
latency is,
Gemini Pro X free plan is very slow.
yeah, so I should switch back. So, so see, it is going on. So I'll just say abort, right? I don't care. Okay. So now I'll change the model.
And there are these things called prefix keys, which if you press the prefix key before invoking a function, it'll do
Yeah,
things before, such as allow
absolutely.
you to
Control
change.
it. Yeah, I can also change the prompt. So okay, this is the prompt that I've used. Let's see. Now I've switched to DeepSeek. Let's see if DeepSeek gives us anything. Yeah. So DeepSeek is giving some garbage right now. Okay. So, but it is typing something. Okay. So I
Whoa.
think DeepSeek. Sorry, SBS, your audio got cut off again.
No, it's use Claude or something. Huh?
Yeah, I don't use Claude. That's why I've been playing around. That is the problem with all of this. Let's try one more time the Flash model. I keep playing around with all of these things.
You want to delete that
Yeah, yeah, I'll delete it.
garbage from above.
Yeah. So it is just text, right? And it is just in my editor. I can do whatever I want. Any kind of manipulation. Let's try that Flash. Yeah. Okay. So it is also writing some Python code, folks.
Because your prompt said return code and only code.
Exactly. Because I switched to programming prompt, right? So you
Yeah.
see, it has not only has it given me some architecture notes, there is also code. But the code is not highlighted right now. Let me tell you guys why. I'm in org mode, and this code that is returned is in Markdown. So what we will do is we'll just switch to a Markdown mode, and let's try this again. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so okay, folks, you see, so it has given me a bunch of Python code, and but this is a plain text file. This is just a Markdown file. Code is also highlighted inside the Markdown file. I can continue iterating on the solution here, or I can also continue just writing my documentation.
And you
Okay.
can execute this code as well.
Yeah, 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 I can execute. I don't have Org Babel set up, but yes, you can definitely execute it. This is doing a lot of stuff, so I don't want to execute this. But yeah, absolutely, you can execute, and it is just a plain text artifact that you can store in version control and keep working on it over time. Okay. So yeah,
So it
the
is now.
simple answer to how this integrates with Emacs LLM is very straightforward. It just works. And there are many other tools. Like there was this question about commit message. Think about it. To be able to pull off something like that, all you need to do is to take the diff that is available in the Baggett buffer, take that diff, put it in the context, send it to the LLM, and ask the LLM to write a commit message, and that can be put in the again the Maggot commit buffer. There are, I think, at least two or three Emacs packages that do that built in. I don't use that. I don't have it configured. Right?
Yep. And it is actually very simple to get started with Emacs. Just download Emacs 30.1,
Yeah,
the latest one, and install GPTel somehow.
yeah,
Then go to the scratch
it's
buffer and keep
yeah,
asking GPTel. And you can, so the other thing that Emacs does very well is literate programming, right? You can
yeah,
write a document and then ask for some code and it'll just appear below in a source block. You can execute the source block. You can put it into your Emacs context if it's Emacs Lisp. And so I have a file called Learning Emacs where I've got all my questions. I'm just asking questions and it keeps sending back code. And the bits that I like, I move to my .emacs, and
yeah,
I can even just tangle a source block with a file on disk. And every time the source block updates, it'll update that file in disk. It is
yeah. Exactly. So this is the all the configuration that you need to have GPTel on in your Emacs. So right now, as you guys can see, I have some Anthropic stuff, Open Router, a bunch of models enabled, and there is also local OLAMA enabled. I can switch these models as per my requirement and just continue with my work. And my .emacs is on GitHub. Uh, let me just switch my browser and show you guys. So this is my GitHub repository. Okay, so you can go here and check out how I have set it up. The One of the key goals of my setup is super fast speed up. Somebody was joking that my OS is booting up and all. My evac starts in 400 milliseconds whenever I restart it, and it has a lot of examples that you can also adopt for your configuration. Uses the most modern ways of doing things, and yeah, I also have my old Emacs configuration that's also there. It's like, as you guys can see, it was committed 17 years ago, but not a lot has really changed.
yep.
The basic stuff, even back then. But my config back then was way simpler. But yeah, this is the some of the config that I use professionally. You will see a lot of Lisp related setup here, and IRC also. Before Discord, there was a thing called IRC, folks. Many of you probably have not tried it out, but my Emacs was my IRC client back in the day. So anyway, yeah. So here we are. Do we have any questions?
Any
Yeah.
questions? We are happy
So
to.
Soumitra has a comment that one can always start the Emacs server at startup and then it will be faster. So I have an opinion about this. Is that Emacs server was a hack. That is my personal opinion. It was invented to work around startup times in Emacs way back, back in the day, like 15 years ago, 10 years ago. But today, Emacs has native compilation. So the Emacs just-in-time compiler compiles Emacs Lisp code to native bytecode, native code, and also package loading can be deferred completely today. You don't have to load them synchronously when Emacs is booting up. So today with native compilation and deferred loading of packages, there is no reason. why your Emacs is not gonna boot up in less than 500 milliseconds
Also, Emacs is not used like Vim. Vim, you'll find people quitting Vim when they're done editing a
all the
file
time,
and starting Vim
all the
again.
time.
So for
So
them,
this is
startup
one
speed
thing.
is,
Yeah, what that is one thing that kind of disappointed me in NeoVim also. That when you are setting NeoVim up, you have to constantly change something and restart NeoVim, restart it, and that was disappointing, I would say, because in Emacs that's not the workflow that we are accustomed to.
yep, 15-day uptime is
Yeah, I just showed
not
you
not
guys, right?
even the longest is gone, right? Not even.
No, absolutely not. 15 days. I'll tell you why it's 15 days.
Hmm.
Because 15 days ago, I upgraded to Emacs 30.1.
Okay. Right.
Right? So that's the reason.
So
Uh, yeah.
anyway,
What else? What else, folks?
I think BG-san, time for final comments, maybe some questions.
Yeah.
A couple of people are typing, so some questions will come
Yeah.
in here. I think maybe talk about how, if you're curious, how to get started. Like, what's the.
Yeah. So there was this one question. Do you take your programming notes inside email? Absolutely, I do. The whether it's documentation or writing separate architecture notes in markdown files or org mode, that is the standard approach, right? I'm not going to start up another editor just to take my notes. It all happens inside one uniform interface, which keeps me in the flow, right? Okay. There is another question from Anmol. He says that I noticed that the source said Emacs list. Is there a major difference with say a common list? Yes, there is a major difference. These are all they all belong to the family Lisp family of languages. What are some of the languages that belong to the Lisp family of languages? Common Lisp is one. Emacs Lisp is another one. Racket or Scheme is another language that belongs to the Lisp family. Clojure, many of you have heard about, belongs to the Lisp family of programming languages. They all are quite different in important ways in terms of especially semantics and standard library, those kind of things, and data structures, those things. But they have all developed independently. So there is no shared, I would say, runtime in between all of these. But if you learn one Lisp language, then learning another one is not that difficult. Uh, so
Yeah.
that's
So
what I would say.
Emacs
Okay,
Lisp
Shobit.
is
Yeah.
much simpler than Common Lisp as well. I think it doesn't have macros. It has one global namespace and
No,
so on.
no. Emacs list absolutely has macros.
Okay. All right.
What is use package? Use package is a
Yes, it is a
macro, right?
macro. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So okay, so it has macros. It has all these things, but I would say that Common Lisp is a ISO standard, right? It's a ANSI ISO standard that was standardized in 1991, but Emacs Lisp is still sort of evolving as we speak. Okay, there was another question. I think you mentioned that Emacs is a great tool for thinking. Could you expand on this? Absolutely. So, what are some of the tools or environment that we need for thinking? The programming language also should have some facilities for thinking. For example, a REPL. Let me actually show something in Clojure because that will probably be a more instructive example. So I have this simple Clojure project here where I do a lot of experimentation. Okay, this file is the project.clj file, which is very similar to your
Package.
package.json. Yeah, whatever pyproject.toml, those kind of things. So my normal workflow with Clojure and Lisp-like languages is that you open a file and you start the REPL. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now is start the REPL in this project. So I'm starting it. Okay, it's gonna spin up a JVM, so it's little bit it'll take some time, 30 seconds probably. And what you see, so REPL is ready. Okay, now let me open a file in the repository. Okay. So I was writing some RSS reader. Let's look at that code. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I have this file in my project. Okay. So here is the REPL, folks. Okay. Let me split my window so that you can see the file and the REPL together. Okay. On the right side, you see my REPL, and on the left, I have my file. Okay. How does, and also you see that when depending on which frame I'm focusing on, the size automatically adjusts. So how do I think? Thinking is iteration. It is quick feedback, doing something, seeing the results right away, and then you modify your code and you continue. So if I have to check out some function, what it does in closure. Let's say I don't know right now. Okay, so let's say closure dot string. Let's pull in as s. So when I say s slash, so again it is showing me documentation as well as whatever functions are available. Let's say I'm gonna use trim. Okay, so what trim does, it trims off spaces from both sides. Okay, so here I just tried it and I can see that okay it works. So this is what I want. Okay, now I can just copy this thing
And
and
all
write a function here. Okay.
all the power of editing is available in the REPL as well. For example, select
Yeah,
the whole S
absolutely,
expression, one key
absolutely,
command away.
right, absolutely. So so I have created the function, right? I just copied the code that was working. I'll write some documentation. So I've written the documentation and now I'm going to compile it. I just compiled it. Okay, but it's not going to work. You will see why. So let's try calling the function. So it is showing me the function that is defined. Okay, fine. Let's see what happens. Okay, it worked actually. Oh, I thought it won't work because I had not imported, but I realized that I have imported that namespace in the REPL, so that's why it worked just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but if it had not worked, all I had to do is to basically go here, put the required statement here. Okay, and then just recompile only this part. I don't have to recompile the whole file, right? I'm going one by one as I need. And yeah, so here I am. And if there are any problems or bugs or whatever, I can always iterate on it and continue. Okay, so how is this a thinking tool? This is how you solve problems, right? You solve problems by trying to first figure out the domain model, and then you write some code. You have to try it out. You have to have quick feedback loop, and then you finalize your solution, write some documentation, commit it, push it, and you are done. That's our job. So yeah, and all the other basic things like finding symbols in a project, auto completion, these are all solved problems. So it's not even worth talking about them. Yeah. Okay.
The way I use Emacs for thinking is I will start with GPTEL. I'll type in what's on my head. I'll ask GPTEL for or the LLM for these things, and I keep reifying. In org mode, you can keep narrowing things.
Yeah.
So because it's a
Correct.
hierarchical outline document, you can go into one part of the hierarchy and then tell GPTEL that only use this as your context, right?
Exactly.
And you keep getting until you start reifying your ideas. Like you start with a mess in your head, you clarify it slowly as I don't know requirements or whatever,
Mm.
and then you start asking it to generate code as a result. So my
Yeah.
whole, and then that file serves as executable documentation. Like for
Exactly.
example, I had written, so I'm working with, I'm building a little thing for a client which is makes heavy use of an API. So I just
Mm.
wrote a document saying this is the interface that we use to talk to this API. These are the way the results get. And in org mode, you can execute the code and it'll paste the result below. below
Exactly.
where. So it's like live
Exactly.
documentation. The only gripe is not
Yeah.
everyone on the team uses Emacs. So they get a
Yeah.
static version of it. But if you're using Emacs, you can also.
Even Postman, AJ, SBS, there is this thing called in org mode. There is this library called
Hmm,
verb mode,
hmm.
and basically completely makes Postman redundant. And I'm going to show you guys the documentation of verb mode, and you will see an example. I've used it recently for a project, and it was awesome. So all you need to do is basically write a plain text document like this, right, where you basically say that okay, this is the route, right, this is the header content type, and this is the payload, and you just execute it and it runs it and you get the output right here. Okay, so like this is an example. You can actually see in the screenshot here that this Open Library API is documentation as well as executable API testing tool.
Beautiful.
So once you execute this text on the right side, you get the response as well as all the headers listed.
Actually,
And you
there's so
just
much SaaS that would not exist if everyone used Emacs. Because you'll see me on Twitter, like, "Oh, is there an application that does this?" And I'll be like, Emacs. I want branching conversations in an LLM.
no,
Emacs.
people have not read, right? Steve Ege has an article
Hmm.
about how the first few years of Amazon ran completely inside Emacs. Amazon.com, the e-commerce arm of Amazon.com, used to run completely inside Emacs, and the whole tool was built in Emacs Lisp. Steve Ege has a very nice article about
I'm
that.
doing this now. I'm writing little agents that live in Emacs Lisp that access my recruiting software, and I can
Hmm.
then ask unlimited questions about which are the candidates that I need to
Yeah,
get back in touch with, who I haven't
exactly.
communicated with for 6 months. And agents, this MCP and all is
Yeah.
for normies. We've always.
No, also the power of LLMs itself, right?
Hmm,
We can talk, you can type, and we can get the answer. This is the essence of Emacs itself, if
hmm,
you think about it,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm.
That in one sort of interface, all I need is a chat window and I'm doing all my work.
Yep, 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 yep,
So,
yep.
okay. So there's this question. Then would you say Emacs is not a good choice for users seeking immediate productivity given its steep learning curve and the need to learn eLisp? I previously used Emacs but encountered problems when I copied configuration from others, which often led to runtime buggy behavior. Okay, so this is not one question. There are a bunch of things in that one question. Let us quickly unpack it. What do you mean by immediate productivity? I think if you want immediate productivity, then why are you not using Notepad or something like that? What does that mean? Immediate productivity, and why is this even a requirement? That I do not have time to learn anything, but I want to be productive right away. It is an oxymoron. It's like saying a pilot saying, I don't have time to learn how to fly the plane. I want to become a captain immediately. Right? So, some shift in mindset, I would say, is required here because this whole immediate productivity is a mirage in the sense that it may give you a sense of being productive, but you will not be able to leverage or reach the true potential that a integrated development environment can provide you. That is one thing. So that is absolutely not true that Emacs is not a good choice for newbies or people who are just getting started, because the earlier you start using Emacs, the better for you. That way, I'm one of the examples. SBS is another. There are many other people who have continued with one tool forever. I know a lot of people today who do not use Emacs, but they're looking at Cursor, they're looking at Aider, they're looking at Z, trying out bunch of tools with totally different semantics just to start using LLMs. But we don't have to do that in the sense that Emacs is extensible. And also, if you want to get started, Copying somebody's configuration is totally okay, but you should at least try to understand what it is that you are copying. Doom, i- I'm sort of conflicted about Doom. Doom is great, no question about it. But Doom is not just a configuration system, it's also a framework. So there are a lot of functions that Doom guys themselves have implemented for ease of use, I would say, or better user experience. So, it's good to get started with, but the ultimate objective should be to build your own config from scratch. And it is a worthwhile exercise.
And it is super easy now with LLMs,
No, it is easy with LLMs, and also Emacs has also become way more
user friendly.
advanced, I would say, user friendly. Yes, there are a lot of things that were implemented in third party packages which are built in now. So you don't have to worry about those things. Like completion, for example, Emacs 30.1 now has a built in completion system, which is state of the art. So, so
And
yeah,
I would say actually, I would disagree with the statement that Emacs learning curve is very steep. Actually, when you grok it, everything is behind MetaX. And it will reveal to you the key combinations that you need to remember, which you use often. And in modern Emacs, which comes with which key and all of these affordances
yeah,
enabled by default, your
yeah,
learning curve will actually be very simple.
absolutely.
And here's the
Uh,
thing, right? Like Vim, for example, you might need to learn key bindings for tmux. You might need to
yeah,
learn every one of those modes that it has, or plugins that it has their own learning curve. But Emacs as a philosophy reduces everything down to buffers, files, and s expressions or
yeah,
expressions, and then manipulating those is actually very simple.
yeah,
And there's a guy called Prot who does
yeah.
this series of
Protest
Emacs
gloves.
videos. They are great. You want to go deep on any topic, just get any video from Prot
Yeah,
and see, and you will see there the power of Emacs, like a simple tool like directory dired, right? How much power it
straightforward.
has, right? Then you get the
Yeah,
sense of like the power user tooling of old. And
yeah,
yeah, it's not difficult. And if you want to enjoy, then check out this YouTube channel called Emacs Rocks, where he'll just
yeah.
in 7 minutes
That's
he will show you some
yeah, awesome
functionality
stuff.
but that's
Yeah,
more of the
there are a bunch of
Firefox
channels
kind
now.
of, yeah, yeah.
System crafters is another one. So yeah,
Distro
I,
tube.
yeah. But I think it is also a matter of mindset, folks. Everybody asks this
I
question,
agree,
right? I
yes.
keep hearing. Like there is this another question. What advice would you give if I want to pick Emacs again? Is it worth it to spend time in learning a new tool?
Everybody
First of
wants
all,
to learn, nobody wants to study.
exactly.
Yeah,
So, is it worth learning a new tool? A quick detour. When I was in college, people used to come and ask me, and I'm gonna say this in Hindi. They used to ask me, .NET का स्कोप है क्या, जावा का स्कोप है क्या, कोबोल का स्कोप है क्या? मतलब it means that should I learn this language? Will it give me a job? Should I learn that? All that. These are very common questions. And back then itself, I understood one thing, that if I have very strong fundamentals, I don't need to learn anything. Okay. There is nothing new in this world. So if there is one tool that you really want to learn, think about it as an investment, not as something that I'm going to just get by somehow, right? If you have that kind of mindset, I doubt if you will become a good programmer also, because it's not about just an editor, right? It's a very general purpose mindset that is applicable across the board. If you are saying that, should I learn this or that?
should I
Is it
study
worth learning?
SICP?
Exactly.
Right, it's the
SICP
same
will blow your
question,
mind.
yes.
It's probably also too difficult for the average person to read today,
Yeah,
but absolutely something that you should try, because there was again this story, right? That somebody said that if I was given 4 hours and an axe to cut down a tree, uh, I will spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe,
yeah.
right? And Absolutely. It makes complete sense. Why would I spend 4 hours with a blunt axe where I can sharpen the axe for 3 hours and then chop away the tree very quickly?
And have a sharp axe also for the next tree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? So configuring your Emacs, consider it like sharpening your axe, right? So I started the whole process of sharpening my axe 20 years ago. I still keep it sharp, and there are no roadblocks in front of me when it comes to any kind of information processing.
And
So
the
yeah,
Lisp land is very, very wild, man. I was watching this video from RacketConf, right?
yeah,
And the guy says, okay, look, there are all these LLMs and all, but LLM interaction is still kind of kludgy because there are 4 or 5 things I need to take care of. One is which model am I using, what is the prompt, what are the messages, and what is the response, and then also how many tokens I used, and so on and so forth. So they just wrote a language called LLM Lang, which has all of these features
yeah.
for free.
It is
And
very similar to these lang graph and lang chain kind of
yep,
libraries.
yep, yep, yep.
Uh,
But
yeah,
baked into the language, right?
baked into the
And
language. Yeah, it's a dialect. Like racket folks have a dialect. Okay, so there is this very interesting question here,
uh,
which I don't know many people will understand. Also, it says how to fix Emacs Pinky.
time to
Folks,
show that
so
keyboard.
this is a real problem.
Mm.
If you understand, right, that Emacs has uses these modifier keys of control and meta. Meta is alt extensively, and the keyboards that we have today, the control key is in a position that is suboptimal for your hands. So almost all keyboard Emacs users configure their keyboard and swap the caps lock key and the control key. So the caps lock key is your control, and you can keep an additional control or swap the control key to the caps lock key. Okay, so having that caps lock as control, you can use that with a stronger finger and not the weakest finger, and that's going to avoid any kind of injury on your hands. So the reason why Emacs uses control is that when Emacs was invented back in the day, computers had different keyboards. And those keyboards, if you look at some examples of Lisp machine keyboards, you will see that the positioning of the modifier keys was vastly different. And in fact, there were four modifiers. One there was control, meta, super, and hyper key as well. So you could do a lot of coding things with those four modifiers.
Play text like you play the piano.
Exactly.
Mm.
That's the whole idea, right?
Mm.
Uh, yeah. And then somebody says, "How is Emacs?" We don't want to get into that
Yeah,
conversation.
it's
That's what I
better,
wanted to
worse,
say,
who
right?
cares? Right?
Yeah. And I don't know if you're talking about Vim or NeoVim. Vim and NeoVim are two different beasts. And if you're happy with Vim, Godspeed to you, man. It's not a problem.
Yeah, but to give a to answer the question actually, Vim is a text editor. Emacs is a Lisp environment in which you
Yeah,
can also edit text. So
exactly.
if you want one unified environment for all the text in your life, including email, journals, code, log files, everything, then that is Emacs. I don't think Vim
Yeah,
can unify them under one runtime the way Emacs does.
exactly. So this is a photograph of the Space Cadet keyboard. That was the keyboard on the Lisp machine. Just pay attention to the blue keys. The blue keys, except the spacebar, all of them are modifiers of some kind. And at the very bottom, you will see that you have hyper, super, meta, and control. Look at the position of the control. It
It's
is
for the thumb.
quite different compared to where the control key is situated in modern
Yeah,
keyboards.
it would be command and on the
Yeah,
Mac
yeah,
keyboard, you use your
yes, yes,
thumb to.
yes.
So,
Yeah, exactly. So, and the thumb is the strongest finger, right?
mm.
So that's the thing. So, yeah, it is important to learn some history also, folks, because then you can understand why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
These things were not arbitrary choices. There is a lot of
Yeah, there is nothing arbitrary about Emacs at all.
absolutely nothing arbitrary.
And I triple dot says in a Mac you can use Carabiner or Kanata. I just want to say that
Ah,
you can also put it in your .emacs file to swap the
yeah,
keys.
yeah. I put it in my carabiner,
Okay.
so I do it via carabiner because it's system wide for me, right?
Mhm.
Control is always the key caps lock for all applications for me. And another thing, by the way, that a lot of people have not understood or realized is that almost all the tools that you use today, whether it is your browser or your terminal, they all have Emacs key bindings by default.
Yeah.
So Control A takes the cursor to the front,
Mm,
Control E to the end, Control P, Control N to move up and down. So
beautiful.
it's already there.
Anyway, I
Okay.
think we've gone on
Yeah.
long enough.
Yeah.
BG-san, of course, one can talk all day about Emacs.
Yeah.
Any closing comments?
No, so first of all, thank you to you and the whole community that you have built here for providing this platform to have this conversation. And this is something that I've told you earlier as well, that these kind of conversations should continue, and we should dig deep into what is the essence of being a good software engineer, right? And it is not about learning tools or libraries or specific languages, but it's more of a mindset thing. And
Indeed.
I would love to have more opportunities to have similar conversations with you folks in the future. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Wait. Before you go,
Yeah, I'm not going.
tell us about Team Ohana and are you hiring and what kind of people are you looking for
Yeah,
whenever you start to hire again?
no, we are hiring. So at Team Ohana, we are building a very complicated business problem of headcount management. Uh, you know, we can talk about that later, but you guys can check out our website, teamohana.com. Team Ohana is built in Clojure and Clojure script. It is one mono repo with front end, back end, and a bunch of things shared in between. And we use Postgres and ClickHouse as our databases for OLTP and OLAP. So yeah, we are hiring very good engineers. Language is not a barrier as long as you are willing to learn. So if you're interested in some really challenging problems in the startup space, please contact me. I'm very easy to find online. I also have a website and I'm on LinkedIn. So, and I'm also on Twitter, etc.
And
So,
if you want to skip the LinkedIn and everything, just go through me.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, SBS. Yeah, he's the guy. He's the Merovingian now. So he's going to do the matchmaking for us.
Yep, yep, yep.
So
Oh,
yeah,
new
talk to
website,
him.
BG, new domain name,
Yeah,
bg.xyz.
bg.xyz.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. And I also look forward to having more conversations like this. That was kind of the point behind
Yeah.
getting the community together so that we can all
Yeah.
learn
So
together.
there's this comment says from Mad Dog. He says some of the OG closure folks are here, if I'm not wrong. So Mad Dog, I am the OG closure folk.
Yes.
I am the OG closure guy. Okay. So yeah. So I'm there.
Yeah. I remember what was it, 2007?
Seven,
We
seven,
met,
eight.
yeah,
Yeah, seven,
at
eight.
your
Yeah,
office, Infinitely Beta office next to
yeah,
the Pune
yeah.
station, and everything
Definitely
was
the first Asian to use closure.
mm,
Uh,
wonderful. Great. So with that, I just want to say thank you and thank you for the audience also to
yeah,
join and for your questions and your interest. If you have questions about Emacs, just ask them on the Discord. Someone will
anytime.
help you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah, find my Emacs config on GitHub. If anybody wants to do, let's say, quick pairing session where you want to set up your Emacs on one of these weekends, I'll be super happy to join you guys and help you configure your Emacs from
Yeah,
scratch.
we'll do a group thing, like get
Yeah,
whoever wants to start,
yeah,
get
yeah,
up and
yeah.
get you up and running
Exactly,
on
exactly.
Emacs.
Okay.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, folks. Bye bye.